This is Janjo, and I'm building a deck, yeah! Hey everyone, this is Jesse from the Janjo Zone. In this video we will be talking about a build I have for an Elemental Hero Thunder Giant Goat format deck. So definitely watch the video because that's how you can get all the information for my card choices and ratios and all that jazz. And also by the end of this video, if you have any changes that you would make, let me know, as well as decks you would like to see in future videos. It doesn't have to be GOAT format, it could be any format. So let's just get started. Alright, so for a while I wasn't planning to do an Elemental Hero deck. There's not really much you can do in GOAT format. The only GX set at this time during this format was the Lost Millennium, and you only had 4 Elemental Heroes. You had Elemental Hero Sparkman, Clayman, Burstinatrix, and Avion. It wasn't until the next couple sets, when you started seeing just more variety of Elemental Heroes, which is why you would play them. But it is fun that you can play E-Heroes, one of the most beloved archetypes in Yu-Gi-Oh! But when you see decks in GOAT format, there's not really a ton of great ones. There's some good builds, I'll give it that, but a lot of times you watch them, at least the ones that I've watched, and they'll have Sparkman, Clayman, Avion, Burstinatrix, and you hear the same thing over and over again, is that Clayman, Sparkman, they're fine. Burstinatrix and Avion, not so much. You only have 2 E-Hero fusions, and they both go with Sparkman and Clayman, and Burstinatrix and Avion. You have Flame Wingman and Thunder Giant. While both fusions aren't bad, Thunder Giant's the superior one, arguably in my opinion anyway. The whole thing with Thunder Giant is that once per turn you can discard a card and target one face-up monster on the field with attack less than the attack of Thunder Giant, and then you can destroy it. So it's kind of like a Raigeki break, and it hits most cards. I mean, it'll hit your opponent's Chaos Sorcerers, any lower monsters. It wouldn't hit BLS, but that's like the only one there. So when I got the idea for this deck, because I wanted to make a deck that was just better than E-Hero. I didn't want to have to run Avion. I didn't want to have to run Burstinatrix, especially if your whole thing is going to be a Thunder Giant, and then that gives you room for better cards and more of an actual deck than if you ran just more of a gimmicky E-Hero deck. So the way I went with this was with a Thunder Giant Warrior Toolbox deck was the way I went with it. Because Sparkman and Clayman, they're not the worst cards. I mean, Sparkman does have 1600 attack, so it is higher attack than a chunk of the weaker monsters, and Clayman does have 2000 defense, so it is a good defensive card. Sure, it's not as good as Gravekeeper Spy, and Sparkman isn't as good as Trap Infecting Virus or stronger monsters, but we do have the toolbox to kind of help pick up the pace. And the nice thing with the toolbox strategy is that you can change bits and pieces to what you prefer or to what you expect going into a tournament or online play. What kind of forms around the meta. Like, you could certainly run Kaiku the Ghost Destroyers in here. That said, with the build, let's just go in order. I think might be the best way, so I can keep track of everything. We got Blackluster Soldier Envoy at the beginning. He's just, he's the boss monster of GOAT format. We run a fair amount of lights and darks. Sparkman's a light, running Thunder, Dragon, Blade Knight, plus we have a chunk of darks as well. So we have plenty of cards to run Envoy at the beginning. You could run a Chaos Sorcerer if you want to cut some cards out. If you really wanted to, you could cut down the engine a little bit for the E-Heroes, but I wanted to make it a bit more focused. It's supposed to have running 2, 2, and 2, which is a good ratio, I would say, for that kind of deck, but I just wanted to have a little bit more fun with this one, and it's more likely you can get into your Thunder Giant, which is supposed to be your thing. You kind of want to watch out for Delinquent Duo also, because that would tear your soul apart. Okay, next we got Blade Knight. Great light target. Blade Knight's great. Destroy flip monsters. He gets an attack boost. Enough said. Break of the Magical Warrior. He's not a warrior, but he can help deal with back row cards, which is great. The last thing you want is to summon Thunder Giant and get torrential or Ring of Destruction, or what have you, Raigeki Break, Sakuretsu Armor, you know, because you definitely want to keep this guy in attack mode. So you also got Mirror Force live, so Breaker's good. Donzalug, again, good utility. He can do different stuff. He can pick apart your opponent's hand. That's nice. Exavars can deal with stuff you probably don't want to deal with otherwise. He's just a good utility card. King of the Swamp. Some people could run 3. I do have a 3 like in a side deck. You could run 3, but I think 2 is good. You can search out Poly with it, but I kind of like it more for its fusion substitute requirement, or not requirement, effect. Because you can do a lot of stuff with it, as we'll get to. Mystic Swordsman level 2. Takes care of face down cards. That's great. Sangan can search a good chunk of cards. You know, Exile, Donzalug, Clayman, Sinister Serpent, Mystic Swordsman. So you can search a lot of cards with this. King of the Swamp. So Sangan's great. Sinister Serpent, again, really good with Thunder Giant, because you can discard Serpent to destroy a monster on the field, and then you get Serpent back. It's great. Serpent works so well. It is the peanut butter to Thunder Giant's jelly. Next we got Thunder Dragon, which helps with our light engine, and again it helps with Thunder Giant just to keep getting resources if we need it. Zombira the Dark. This one I particularly like. I know Zombraya is... a lot of toolbox decks could add him in. They could cut him out. But I think he works well with this deck. Not only is he a high attacker, but with King of the Swamp, you could actually use that in conjunction with Polymerization to summon the last warrior from another planet. And this card is totally busted. His effect is that when he special summon, you destroy all their monsters you control, and then neither player can summon monsters, which is a great lockdown card. And since we are playing Zombira and not Mario Kutai, which is an interesting tech card, that's kind of why you want to save King of the Swamp for that, so you can use it with Zombira to surprise your opponent, because we're running more fusions than just Thunder Giant in this deck. Same thing with Sangan. Sangan with King of the Swamp, we can get Sandwich, because this is the only way we can summon it. Witch of the Black Forest is banned in this format, so you could summon Sangan, use King of the Swamp, and then get a search and a 2100 attacker with 1800 defense. So not only you get a stronger monster, but you get a search off as well. And then with Thunder Dragon, with Polymerization, we are running Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, which you could also use with King of the Swamp. You don't have to, because we are running enough fusion materials for it. Again, you have a high attack monster with 2800 attack, 2100 defense for Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, which is a great offensive pressure card. Next, we're running 3 of the Sparkman and Clayman, just so we can get enough materials out there. Having 1600s and 2000 defense cards aren't bad, really. You can still put on pressure just by constantly attacking with monsters, and with Clayman, you do have pretty good defense. Your opponent, more times than not, is going to have to figure out some way to take care of them. And it won't get knocked, because if you get knocked with it, you're not going to banish all your other copies. So it does have that benefit. Next, we're running Fusion Sage. Fusion Sage, I would prefer this to be my Poly Searcher as opposed to King of the Swamp. We are running 2, since we're running 3 Polys. I think 2 and 3 is the perfect ratio, just so you can thin your deck out. There's a lot of deck thinning with this deck, which I think is pretty decently between King of Swamp, if you want, Sangan, Thunder Dragon, Fusion Sage, Rhoda. Like there's a lot of good stuff. Graceful Charity and Pot of Greed, definitely great cards. I didn't have room for the Linka Duo. You could side it, it's more of a side card. Heavy Storm, Mystical Space Typhoon, Snatch Seal, Premature Burial, kind of self-explanatory. Prima is pretty good because you can bring back a monster like King of the Swamps. But anything that you would possibly need for a fusion material is great for that. Same thing with Call of the Haunted. I got 2 Rhodas, which you have to run in this. There's so many warriors, so many toolboxy stuff you can search out, which is just fantastic. Like almost every monster in your deck. And then we're running 1 Nobleman. You could cut this out for something else if you want to have like a Delinquent Duo, anything else. I do like the 1 because we are running Mystic Swordsman, but I do like having that option of not having to commit to a summon or a monster, just getting rid of a face down card for free is great, especially with Thunder Giant. Thunder Giant, because it has to. You have to know the attack of the monster. You know, you can't hit face down cards with it. So having stuff like knocking it can help you get rid of if you have like we're going up against like a Sire Jar, I guess. Could deal with that, or Maneater Bug. No one runs those in most decks, but yeah, just in case. Mirror Force and Ring, just perfect utility cards. And then because this is a Warrior Toolbox, 3 Solemn Judgments just to stop whatever you might run into, especially with a fusion base set, because there is a lot of deck thinning, but you are using a lot of resources. So having the ability to stop those key moments are great. You definitely need a big brain for this. And that's the deck. Other cards you could run, again, you could run a 3rd King of the Swamp, a 3rd Fusion Sage, another Nobleman, Delinquent Duo. You could run Torrential Tribute, but just because we're running a lot of fusion stuff, I'm kind of straying against from that. You could also run Defusion, 1 to 2 maybe, if you want to get attack in and then maybe get for another attack, because if you Defusion Thunder Giant, you'll get a 1600 and 800 attack, which is a good chunk of damage. Same thing with a Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, or even Sandwich. Actually, no, you want. Actually, can you use it with King of the Swamp? Yeah, if all the fusion materials that were used for its fusion material are in your graveyard. Yeah, so used for its fusion material. So yeah, it would work with King of the Swamp. So you could also use it with Sandgan to get another search off potentially. You could also run Fusion Gate. I've seen some builds with Fusion Gate that don't run Polymerization, in which Fusion Gate is a field spell, so you could search it, replace Fusion Sage with like 2 terraformings, or I'd probably run 2 Fusion Gates and 1 terraforming, probably side in the 3rd, because you're probably going to use backward cards to destroy it, which is the downside to it. Also, it banishes the fusion material cards, which is bad, but the benefit with Fusion Gate is that you can have it on the field, so you don't need to use a poly every turn. You don't need to use multiple cards for it, but I like the instant gratification of poly and the fact that you don't banish cards, so you can get stuff back with Prima or Call if you need to. You could run also, if you run Fusion Gate, you probably would want to run like a Return from Different Dimensions, something like that. Maybe even like a DD Warrior Lady you could probably throw in here instead. But that's a different build for a different day. Maybe I'll do a Fusion Gate Flame Wingman banishy build. Would you like to see that? I think that'd be kind of fun. But yeah, in terms of the fusion extra deck, Thunder Giant, Sandwich, Last Warrior from Another Planet, and Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, those are like your cards you're going to be running. I don't think there's anything else we can run. I'm pretty sure there isn't, but those are, like there's a lot of cards you could run with that, and that's great. And we're running 3 polys, so that's at least 3 fusions you can get out. So you can get out a variety of things with your primary, your main bread and butter for this deck is going to be your Thunder Giant. And plenty of cards, hopefully, to get rid of stuff. Again, you want to watch out for that Delinquent Duo, because they can pick apart your fusion materials, your fusion cards, and that's not a good day. So yeah, let me know what you think about this deck. What would you change? What would you like to see for future deck profiles, whether it's certain decks or formats? Definitely let me know. And definitely check out my Patreon if you want to for sure get a deck on this channel, as well as other benefits and goodies. So of course, until I see you all next time, have a wonderful day.
My grandpa's deck has no pathetic cards, Kaiba.